You are lucky enough to be on my stage today. I'll be hosting 10 amazing speakers, and we're joined by our first one today, Erol Toker, multiple-time CEO and co-founder, most recently of TryKit.ai. And Erol, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate you taking the time. And I am really excited for your topic. So I'm going to let you take it away and share what you have to share.
Cool. Yeah. Super excited to be here. I actually gave this talk once, and that's actually jumping right in. That's actually the fun fact for today. So hi, everybody. I'm Erol. I'm the founder of a couple different companies. I've been working in the RevOps space for the last 10 years, different products. And my interesting fact kicking this off was I actually gave this presentation as one of the main stage talks last year. And it went really, really well until we got to Q&A. And I sucked the air out of the room a little bit because I didn't have a good answer for something that somebody asked about, well, where's RevOps headed? But I think I'm really well prepared. And, being the first one on stage, I'm going to try to breathe some life into you guys and hopefully have a really good Q&A. So the origin of my talk, like, how did I get to this point? Just to sum up really simply, the first company I ran, we did everything right. All the metrics looked excellent. We raised the Series A, and then my life got worse, like a lot worse. Money was supposed to make it better. It just made me more exhausted. There were more problems, more complicated problems. I didn't really understand what was happening. And then COVID gave us a little bit of a pausing moment where we could kind of take a look around just because everything came to a standstill. And this is the story of some of the things that we learned and how we changed our business from that period. So basically, we came out of that with 3 learnings. And we'll talk about each of these with examples in the next slide. So the first one is it's really easy to kid yourself with today's best-in-class metrics. I say today's, it's not very clear that the metrics we used last year are going to be the metrics we use next year, just given how everything has come down to some form of sanity. But the main thing is, like, it's really easy to kid yourself if you break down and silo your metrics and say, we are absolutely crushing it, and there's only one problem over there, but everything else is going great. Never works that way. Which brings me to number 2. Every department's problem started somewhere completely different. And then the third lesson was, I'm not anti-sales. This talk is about the end of sales as we know it. I actually did sales for many years. I loved it. I have an engineering mind. And to me, sales is the ultimate engineering puzzle exercise thing. But after going through this experience, I really started to ask myself, is it worth all the effort and all the headache that comes with it? Because yeah, it's fun. But when you try to scale with 20, 30, 40 people, it can get awfully, awfully messy. And basically, taking these 3 things, what we realized was we were spending all of our time trying to build a sales machine from our point of view. So it was like we're trying to build this factory floor, this conveyor belt where, we send emails and people come in and they go from A to B to C to D, and we knew exactly how much the cost of making those jumps were. But we never really thought about what was happening from the customer's perspective. And I came from a product background. And in product, we talk about this concept called job to be done, which is, you can sit there and say the job to be done of sales is to close business. But at the end of the day, the job of sales is to make the business successful, right? So rather than talking about making sales success, having a great marketing department, a great sales department, what does it mean for the business to be successful? And we thought to ourselves, well, the answer to that is the right people come in the door, the exact right people for the business, not we're going to close revenue. The exact right people come in the door. They see exactly what they need to see to buy a product and then leave us alone, because that's what we notice. And everybody knows this in their business. The best fit customers are always the quietest, and they always renew, and they always pay more than everybody else. So who is that person? What do they need to see? Where are they in the world? What are they doing on a Wednesday at 9:35 a.m. Central? Who is that person? Those are the questions that we started to ask. And we started working backwards from that. And as we did that, it was a very interesting sort of 3 to 6 months. These are just some of the, I know that we like to talk inputs, outputs, but just to show you some of the outputs that we achieved in just 6 months, these are what's happened with some of the stats. So our MQL to SQL rate, in other words, people who showed up to people with whom we booked a meeting to whether or not they progressed in the sales process went from 15% to 85%. That means almost every single meeting that we took was pretty much qualified. The amount of time it took to do demo prep, so in other words, just think about like getting yourself psyched up in the right place, making sure that you have the right screens up, that you have the right demo flow, and you're going to customize. We used to spend about an hour sort of prepping for those sometimes. Obviously, if you had multiple in succession, you didn't do an hour and a half for each, but there was this like really big cost for people to get prepped, and especially if you have multiple people getting on a call, it was hurting our efficiency. We brought this down to 2 minutes. We stopped negotiating, we stopped doing quotes, and just the stress just sort of melted away for us, and it melted away for the customer. And so how did we do some of this? It was always something simple. So we talked about the problem in this department started somewhere else. So let's talk about customer retention. It's really easy to say, oh, this customer didn't understand the value of the product. They didn't see we didn't do QBRs. The rep didn't get them to like them enough. The rep wasn't able to do some sort of magic. But the reality of what we found with a lot of these customers that were churn risks was, we were never their dream product. They were always marginal, and it was always profitable to bring them in at the surface level. And it kind of is profitable. You keep investing in account managers because you're like, well, it's a $200,000 deal, 100,000 account manager. It's profitable. But behind all that, there's all these hidden debt that you never ever see. The backlog for engineering, the engineers you have to hire, the constant to save people, like the give and get that you have to do. With demos, we stopped doing live demos. We started building videos of the perfect parts of the demo, the exact 2-minute segments that everybody needed to see in the demo. And believe it or not, we would show these videos live on a call. So we would observe the video alongside with them. And whereas everybody was recording these calls, sending 30-minute videos that nobody was going to watch on the customer side, they'd always say, send us the video. Of course, they never watched them. We would send them the exact perfect videos that they needed to show other people that they actually would watch. So from a customer's job to be done perspective, from a product perspective, what does that mean? That means we're helping them achieve their goals. We're not trying to cut down on the time that it's taking us. All we did was try to be empathetic to the customer, and that intrinsically just happened to make everything great for us. But really, we were optimizing towards them, and this just happened throughout the funnel, like every step of the funnel. CPQ quotes. You know what we did? We said we're going to buy an e-commerce checkout website software. The same thing that people do, basically, you go to Amazon, you check yourself out. And that's what our customers did. So we didn't have to go back and forth 7 times with CPQ. We didn't have to chase down signatures. We gave them the checkout form and they signed it or they didn't. They got access or they didn't. Really, really simple. And everything sort of worked out. And then things got even weirder because, we got this article published when we shared our findings in Sales Hackers. So once we started making these changes, it was like gravity stopped applying. So, we have these ideas in sales about what great sales is. And this is the stuff that I practiced and it worked, right? So when you get on a call, you do little talking and you do a lot of question asking, you do a lot of discovery, and you're always pushing the information to the end because you want to give the perfect crafted pitch. What we found when we looked at our conversation intelligence data was the best customers and the best deals had us talking the most. And we asked very little questions. Customers asked all the questions. We just gave the answers. And the reason for that was going back to this, we stopped marketing broad things in the hopes of booking meetings. We started marketing to try to find the right people who would never churn. And so we started thinking of marketing as a way to scare away all the wrong people and attract all the right people. So it's just been a really interesting experience. I don't think, to sum up, I don't think sales is necessarily going to go away. Well, I know sales absolutely isn't going to go away, but I know for a fact that just looking at those metrics of talk time versus questions asked, whatever, the entire nature of sales is going to have to change this new world. And RevOps, I think, is going to be the catalyst that is going to make that happen. So my takeaway for today is this: stop trying to make your reps more efficient, make the customer's journey more efficient, and everything will figure itself out.
Amazing. Thanks, Errol. Tons of questions come to mind here. And we'll give some people opportunity. Anybody out there listening who has a question, please don't be shy. Happy to ask it for you. But my first question, Errol, is like, can you describe that process around, the perfect customer, like finding that perfect customer, right? Because we all go through these exercises, defining ICP, defining personas, and the typical kind of attributes that everybody talks about. How was yours different, and what did that process look like?
Yeah. So for me, this comes from the product world. There's this concept called job to be done. The guy who championed it was Clay Christensen. Lots of content out there from him and somebody who worked with Bob Mesta. You have to read about it. But basically, their whole argument is that, the way that people buy things is they try to make progress, right? They're trying to get things done. And this is the whole vitamin versus the painkiller thing. The reason we try to solve problems when we find ourselves in specific situations, and that's where the journey starts. The journey, like I may be a white male who is middle income and worked in tech for 10 years, whatever. Like these are my properties, but that has nothing to do with my buying situation or my motivation, right? My buying motivation is more like, it's 9:30, it's 9:42. I'm a father. I have 2 kids downstairs. I don't get to work 12 hours the way that I used to. And I'm like, I struggle with XYZ in running my business. That is my situation. And so I think overall, the way that we do this, like, oh, who's your ICP, whatever, all of that tends to reflect a lack of vision and strategy. Because if you had a vision and strategy, you would be starting with the person, and you'd be thinking not in terms of like, how can I get the thing that gets more people in and buying more? You would be thinking, how can I literally scare away all the wrong people and attract only the right people? Because that's what my product was built to do, to serve these people. And if I want more people, then I need to build a product that serves those other situations, that caters to those situations. And that's how you expand, situation by situation, not demographic by demographic.
Yeah. Cool. Another kind of practical question that I think people would be interested in. So, the idea of, I've coached reps on this a million times. Hey, like, don't talk so much, right? Like, get the prospect talking. And I think you're suggesting flipping it on its head, but it's really not about the amount of time one party is talking versus the other. It's really about, is the right information being exchanged, right?
That's exactly right.
So how do you structure, or are there any tips or tricks on how to get the prospect on the phone to engage and to ask those questions and to be the driver of the conversation?
If you've done your job in marketing, they're going to show up with questions. Like, to me, that is a barometer of how good a job you've done. So the reason we don't give information, the reason we seek information up front in reps, by the way, this is for SDRs. The reason we cold call people and the reason we have sequences that have 7 topics over 32 days is because we don't know up front. We haven't done the research to know exactly what we can do for those people, because we've been given like, oh, it's a white male in Chicago suburbs, whatever, and go, we think we can sell them, go find out. If you're marketing, and by the way, this is what TriKit AI does, by the way. If you are in this digital world, if you can map the right person to your product and you have a real strategy around that, what's going to happen is you're going to send an email that's going to look like this. Hey, Gary, we profiled your business. We noticed you have 32 SDRs and 100 AEs. We also know that you're using software XYZ. We think we can save you $732,142. I have a spreadsheet. I'd love to break it down. Are you the best person, or is this something Armando looks at? Like, that is so specific and so informed that then that person is going to show up on the call. You're not going to ask them questions. They're going to be asking you the questions.
Yeah, fair enough.
And so that's flipping it on its head. It's not about them asking questions is the byproduct, or us not talking and listening is the byproduct of everything that came before it.
Right. Awesome. Erol, we're at time. Perfect amount of time, actually. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm sure there's going to be people that would love to pick your brain or would love to learn more, might be interested in learning more about trykit.ai. Other than visiting trykit.ai, how can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, so I write on LinkedIn every day, and I run a community called Automation. So I'm very active in the RevOps community. I think if you just go to LinkedIn, find me, follow me, there'll be plenty of opportunities to exchange ideas and talk. I'm a RevOps nerd, so I will talk to all of you if you reach out.
Awesome. Thanks again, Erol. For everybody watching, we're going to take a short break. We're going to be back. I think we're going to learn about how not to suck. So stay tuned for that. We'll see you in a few minutes.
I'm excited to see that one.